I'm Mark Taylor, Dean of WashU Olin Business School. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to our annual Scholars in Business event, a tradition I look forward to each fall. While we're getting used to seeing one another virtually these days, it's my great hope that we can convene in person with one another at this time next year to continue celebrating this wonderful programme. We're now a few weeks into the 2021-2022 academic year, a year that is still in some ways unpredictable and which still presents its own unique challenges. It's also a year that continues to feel hopeful as we now see so many students, faculty and staff members back on campus in person again. Students are back in the classroom this year, while we all adhere to university guidelines and policies designed to continue to keep the WashU community safe. Our virtual gathering notwithstanding, I'm pleased to welcome you this evening as we celebrate those who provide access to opportunity through generous scholarship support. We want you, our donors, to know that even though we're staging this event virtually this year, we will still be connecting you with your scholarship students. The Olin Advancement team will be in touch with everyone in the coming months about ways we can do this. I'm looking forward to hearing now some of our students are fulfilling their educational dreams as a result of our donors' generosity. But first, I invite you to hear a few words from WashU's Chancellor, Andrew D. Martin. Chancellor Martin is also a Professor of Law and Political Science at WashU. He is the former Dean of the College of Literature, Science and the Arts at the University of Michigan. Please welcome Chancellor Martin.
Greetings to the incredible community of students, faculty, staff, alumni, and friends of Washington University's Olin Business School. I wish we could gather together for our usual in-person event as we celebrate our scholars in business this evening, though please know how grateful we are for your presence and for your unwavering support of our mission. This event is a special Olin tradition and one of the highlights for the school. We are fortunate to have so many sponsors, students, and friends with us tonight to celebrate a very important program and the individuals who make it possible, a program that brings people together and changes lives. Since the Scholars in Business program's inception in 1979, generous Olin donors have sponsored more than 6,000 Olin students. Whether it's your first year as a scholarship sponsor or whether you support one or multiple students, on behalf of Washington University and Olin Business School, I thank you. Your support makes it possible for some exceptional students, like those you will hear from tonight, to attend Washington University and attain the knowledge, skills, and insight to become the next generation of business leaders. At Olin, we are empowering the next generation of business leaders to change the world in service of the greater good. Olin students are informed by numbers and driven by principle. They are driven to look beyond the bottom line and prepared to make values-based decisions that will have the most meaningful impact. Increased scholarship support and accessible education is not only a priority of Olin, but of the greater university. Scholarship support is one of our most pressing needs, and especially during these extraordinary times, is more important than ever to make sure our students continue to have the resources and opportunities to receive and fully engage in a WashU Olin education. To our scholarship supporters, through your steadfast support, we will continue the momentum of the Scholars in Business program. With your partnership, we will attract a talented and diverse student body through need-based and merit-based scholarships. To our students, I've encouraged you to make the most of your WashU educational journey. You have access to incredible classmates, world-renowned faculty, state-of-the-art facilities, and top-notch experiential programs. I also challenge you to engage with your scholarship sponsor and share your appreciation for their support of your Olin education. Thank you.
Thank you, Chancellor Martin, for reminding us of the important role scholarships play in providing access to high-quality education and opportunity. Simply put, scholarships change lives. You'll hear from two students tonight, Stephanie and Kathleen, both of whom will express just how much their lives are changed thanks to the generosity of others. I, myself, represent exactly what Chancellor Martin spoke of, an example of how scholarships open the doors of opportunity. I was raised in a working class community in the very centre of the UK, not far from where William Shakespeare was born. That community, very much the hub of England's auto industry at the time, offered little opportunity for easy access to higher education. Fortunately, the grades I received in school and the encouragement of my headmasters led to a scholarship that paved the path for the rest of my life. So, to the students here this evening, I want you to know I identify with your experience, and I want to thank you for choosing Olin. We're committed to empowering world-class business and organisational leaders. And to our donors, thank you, not only for your support, but for the relationships you cultivate with our students. I know how important those relationships are toward giving our students a meaningful Olin experience. The Scholars in Business programme is one of the foundations for helping us create a world-class business school. The programme allows us to recruit and educate some of the most talented students in the country. This, in turn, not only impacts their lives, but also allows these students to take their knowledge, their passion, their drive, and impact the world. Now, 42 years later, and more than 6,000 students have felt the impact of this programme. Quite impressive. Now, before we continue, I must recognise those friends we lost in the past year. Please join me in watching a short tribute video to honour the donors we lost this year and to celebrate their enduring impact. As we continue now, I want to say a few more words about Scholars in Business. The programme's founding sponsors established 17 business scholarships at Washington University in 1979. Since then, the programme has seen extraordinary growth. We now award nearly 500 scholarships to Olin students each year, many of whom are watching with us tonight. I'm also pleased to share we have more than 45 legacy scholarships at Olin. Legacy scholarships are given by donors who received a named scholarship when they attended Olin. And we're incredibly grateful to these donors who are paying it forward for the next generation. Lastly, Olin Business School would not be where it is today without the support and the strong foundation provided by three of my predecessors: Dean Mahendra Gupta, Dean Stuart Greenbaum, and Dean Bob Virgil. And of course, their wives, Sunita, Elaine, and Jerry. Please join me in recognising these outstanding leaders. Now, as you probably know by now, increased scholarship support and accessible education is not only a priority of Olin, but of the greater university. In fact, just this month, Chancellor Martin announced Gateway to Success, a university initiative that aims to eliminate financial circumstances as a variable in our admissions process, and which will ensure that a WashU education is more accessible to any and all qualified students. I can't help but think of the inscription on the east facade of Brookings Hall: Discere si cupias intra, salvere iobemus, meaning, if you wish to learn, enter, we welcome you. These words have never been more relevant to our wonderful Washington University community and its future members. And that is largely thanks to you, our generous supporters and friends. Now, We also want to hear from our students tonight. Students who've directly benefited from the Scholars in Business programme. This evening, we'll hear from two students who embody WashU Olin's Pillars of Excellence. With professional interests rooted in driving social impact, they're working to change the world for good. Let's begin by hearing from Kathleen Konkos, a BSBA who will graduate in 2023. Kathleen is an accounting and finance student in her third year at Olin, and she's the first in her family to attend college, and she credits their sacrifices as her motivation in all she pursues. As you'll hear in just a moment, Kathleen is an impressive student poised to make positive change in the business world. Here's Kathleen.
My name is Kathleen Konkos. I'm class of 2023. I'm a BSBA and my majors are finance and accounting. So I actually spent a lot of time growing up in the Philippines, which is where my mom is from. She immigrated, I'd say 25 years ago. So I spent, I would say 6 months there, 6 months here up until the age of 5. Kind of went back and forth from there in Connecticut. It was an interesting way to grow up, but I think it taught me a lot about, who I am and where I'm from. My mom actually grew up in extreme poverty in the Philippines, and every morning she had to sell a certain amount of banana Q to make enough money to survive that day for her family before she could even go to school. So education has always been kind of a priority in my life, given my mom's background and what she had to go through in order to get educated. So that's kind of how I grew up, with that mindset and that priority of education. My mom is a babysitter, and from the age of 5 to when I was 12, she was working for this one family in particular, whose mom was actually a VP of a private equity firm. And I remember when I was 5, kind of seeing how different life was for the kids she was taking care of compared to life back home for me. I kind of saw like how nice their house was, how they had multiple cars, a playground set outside, and then I realized that for the first time there were people that lived a little bit differently than I did. And that wasn't to say like I was too much of a materialistic 5-year-old, but I think at the time I realized like, hey, there are careers out there that could set you up for more success or make things a little less difficult on you and your family. So at 5, I pointed at my mom's boss and I said, "Mom, I'm gonna be just like her one day." My parents have stressed the importance of education my entire life. They've made tremendous sacrifices to put me in a good public school to then apply to institutions like WashU. Getting this scholarship has taken a lot of stress off of them. I think the financial burden of having to pay, hundreds of thousands of dollars for a college education nowadays would have been quite impossible for them to even consider. It's been absolutely life-changing for me and for them. My purpose really is to hopefully provide for them one day, and I hope that, my education here will allow that to happen. And I think beyond that, beyond just supporting them after college, would love to continue supporting other students like me who also have the dream of attending college but don't have the financial means of doing so. So grateful for Mr. and Mrs. Wilpon for sponsoring my scholarship. I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for them. Their selflessness and kindness and generosity has seriously changed me and my entire family's lives. You don't know exactly what people go through. There could be someone who's been making, a ton of sacrifices or going through great hardship. Maybe that's because of financial reasons or personal reasons or anything else, and you never know what one scholarship or even the tiniest amount of money can mean for someone. And I think there are people who may be more fortunate or may have more resources, on hand, and if they are able to donate or able to support someone else who may not have that same fortune or who may not have those same resources, it could make the biggest difference in their lives and totally change the course of generations to come. Like I said, my mom grew up in poverty in the Philippines, and I think to go from one generation and have her daughter go to a school like WashU in such a short amount of time, that was only made possible because of my scholarship and because of the people who are selfless enough and empathetic enough and kind enough to give when needed. I hope that one day I'll be in a position like them to give back to Olin myself and to sponsor children like me who had no idea that they could attend such a wonderful university and pursue the dreams that they had when they might have been 5 like me. Can't thank Olin enough for their commitment to scholarship and their commitment to keeping up those relationships with sponsors to then make wonderful changes in students' lives, regardless of where they come from, even if they're from disadvantaged backgrounds like myself.
Thank you for those inspirational words, Kathleen. Now we'll turn to our next student, Stephanie Bida. Stephanie is working towards her MBA in 2023 with the hopes of creating social change in the world. And you'll hear about her journey from New York to West Africa to St. Louis and how she credits her scholarship with all she's accomplished today.
My name is Stephanie Bida. I am a first year at the Olin Business School full-time MBA program. Now, my parents moved from Germany to New York City when I was about 10 months old, and we lived there for approximately 14 years. I am the eldest of 3 kids, so really New York was like the only thing that I knew. It was such a big shift when my parents moved back to Cameroon when I was about 14, almost 15 years old, because I'd never actually been to the country before, and that really required a huge mindset shift, cultural adaptation, and overall I think it was a very eye-opening experience for me. I think one of the things that really motivates me to try to always make the most out of the opportunities I have available to me is that I grew up incredibly poor. I grew up in the South Bronx, and really, unfortunately, a lot of times I found that I encountered so many brilliant and creative and talented children who really felt as though the circumstances that we were growing up in could only limit them in terms of what they should be able to achieve. When my parents moved to Cameroon, I actually had just finished high school, and so I spent the next 4 years from age 14 to 18 working, basically volunteering, working with a number of different international organizations, and literally with everyone from homeless children to the First Lady of Cameroon to try to better understand what were the biggest issues that youth and women there were facing. And my parents funded the entirety of that, didn't work for those 4 years, and by the end of it, absolutely did not have the means for me to attend any school whatsoever. And it was out of the benevolence of a number of different people that I was able to attend Northwestern and then attend WashU. I love the way that Olin really tries to speak its values into existence. The Olin full-time MBA program basically works to create people who are not just aware of how the business world works from a purely technical perspective, but also try to make the world a better place with the knowledge that they acquire. I would say, if anything, that's probably the biggest reason why I came to Olin, is the way that it strives to create, as they say, data-driven, value-based leaders who really aspire to, yes, make profit, but use that profit for the greater good, use the ideas that they learn to create real social change. I will say that among several other factors that led me to choose WashU, the fact that I was offered a full tuition scholarship really speaks to the way that, as I was saying earlier, Olin really strives not only to state values that they have, but put those values into practice by creating as diverse, be it an economically, racially, socially, or religiously diverse community where people can really learn from one another and learn from experiences that may not necessarily parallel those they grew up with themselves. And so part of why I'm so grateful for having the scholarship and really being able to access the spaces that I do today is because I hope to be one of many more examples to come of the ways in which, just because you grew up a poor child in environments that tell you that you're not worth much, doesn't mean that you can't aspire to achieve some of the greatest things and access some of the greatest opportunities the world has to offer. I'm really grateful to be a recipient of the Melvin Kirk Scholarship. I want to thank Mr. Kirk and his family for offering this opportunity to students who, like me, may not necessarily have had the means to attend WashU on their own. One of the things that I'm particularly grateful for is the way in which this scholarship really has given me the space to not just worry about having to feed and clothe myself, but then really engage with my classmates and engage in trying to understand the Olin community and the St. Louis community at large in a much more profound way. And so I really hope that my story is a testament to the ways in which I believe it was this one philosopher who said, give everything that you have and everything you're capable of and the world will feed you, the world will clothe you. Don't worry about just going out and searching for that yourself.
Thank you, Stephanie, for those inspirational words. And I thank both you, Stephanie, and Kathleen for sharing your journey with us tonight. It's evident from both Stephanie and Kathleen just how impactful scholarships can be. They really do change lives. This is why I'm excited to announce the Kent Scholarship Challenge with you all tonight. Thanks to the generosity of Judy and Jerry Kent, great friends and long-time supporters of the university, we have the opportunity to support even more students like Stephanie and Kathleen. We'll share more about the Kent Scholarship Challenge in the coming weeks. However, I felt it appropriate to kick off this important challenge tonight as we gather and celebrate the impact scholarships have had on our students. Judy and Jerry's commitment to scholarships is evident in their ongoing generosity that dates back to 1998. They have personally impacted at least 75 Olin students through the Kent Scholars Programme, and they hope to inspire others to give back and support the bright and deserving Olin students who are the next generation of business leaders. Judy and Jerry hope to inspire you to continue giving, perhaps even at an increased level, as well as to inspire new donors to begin their scholarship support. Judy, Jerry, I thank you for your generosity and for inspiring so many in our community. Simply put, scholarships change lives. Their influence, as we've heard tonight, reaches far beyond financial assistance. Scholarships provide students with the opportunity to thrive, the opportunity to go beyond what they thought was possible. It provides students the chance to make a real difference in the world. More details about the Kent Scholarship Challenge will be coming your way very soon. I want to thank all of you for making the time to attend this event this evening. Clearly, we would prefer to gather in person to catch up while recognising this important work. That'll have to wait until next year, when I can stand at the podium in Emerson Auditorium looking out at you, our most generous friends, to say thank you for your continued support. It was my privilege to be with you today and to share the stories of our impressive students. I believe it's a testament to your conviction, your goodwill, and your generosity that you're here today. Thank you for your continued support, and I bid all of you a very good evening.